Hello and welcome to Showtime Central with Affinity May and Holly Wigmore on the Workshop
Hello.
Radio. Within today's show, we'll be discussing all things arts and entertainment, giving you the lowdown on all things Oscar noms, the latest theatre and TV news, along with a little bit of dance from Affinity, and the best shows to watch not only live on stage, but from the comfort of your own homes. So first off on today's pilot episode, we'll be talking all things Oscar nominations. So this year, Everything Everywhere All at Once, a twisty sci-fi adventure, led the nominations, picking up 11 nods. It was followed closely behind World War I epic All Quiet on the Western Front and The Banshees of Inisherin, a darkly comic look at friendship that unfolds against the backdrop of the Irish Civil War, which both scored 9 nominations. So we'll be looking at all the categories today, skipping over a couple that we haven't watched, but first off we're going to be talking about actor in a leading role. My pick for this is Austin Butler as Elvis. What a beautiful film.
I haven't watched that. Is it good?
It's good. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Elvis fan, don't get me wrong. But I watched it, and genuinely, the biopic of it is brilliant.
So I picked Megan. There was 2 leading roles who actually played Megan, which I actually never knew that when I was watching it. But there's someone who was doing the vocals and someone doing the movements. Have you watched Megan?
No.
It's incredible. Not for the storyline, but just the acting in itself. The girl who plays Megan, she's just so robotic. It's not anything animated, even though it looks like it should be. But it's amazing.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise that. Is she nominated for an Oscar, or is that just your pick of the week?
Oh, that is just my pick of the week.
I'm
so sorry.
It's okay. We are on Oscars right now. But no, I have someone later that I will talk about who I absolutely love, who is my act of the week. But starting off with Oscars. So I will carry on talking about that. And we're next on to supporting role, which the nominees are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, Barry Keoghan for Banshees of Inisherin. That's picking up a lot of nods this year. And my personal pick, Ke Huy Quan from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I really don't like that film.
I
honestly, I did try to get into that film, but I just couldn't. I remember you saying that it was nominated for the acting rather than storyline.
Yes, there's a lot of acting nods that have been picked up, both for the leading roles in Everything Everywhere. Michelle Yeoh has been one of the most amazing actresses, I think. She actually became the first Asian woman to be nominated for Best Actress in 87 years at the Oscars.
That.
Yeah, so I'm hoping she'll win this one because she actually lost out to Cate Blanchett for Tar at the BAFTAs. That's one I haven't personally seen, but I know it's all about conducting and everything like that. So that looks brilliant, but I'm really hoping Michelle picks up her nod because she was there and I was like, please, Michelle, please. But just, she's actually such a brilliant actress. And that leads me directly on to the next nomination, which is Actress in a Leading Role. Cate Blanchett is nominated again for Tar, as so is Anna de Armas in Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, that's one I haven't heard of, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, and Michelle Yeoh. I've just honestly said Michelle Yeoh is such a brilliant actress. Everything Everywhere was my film of the year. Like, genuinely.
I genuinely wish I could say the same, but I was sat there watching it and I just could not get into it. It was not because of the actress, but I think it was because of the plot. I think because it jumped so much.
Yeah, it's very jumpy. I'm a massive Marvel fan, so like the whole multiverse is sort of a concept I've managed to worm my way around.
I think that was the concept that I couldn't understand.
Because people were saying, like, I know fellow Marvel fans of mine, they were like, how has Everything Everywhere All at Once dealt with the multiversal saga better than a film that's literally called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? But I love all that sci-fi stuff, so I got my teeth really dug into it, and like the way it's portrayed, where they're going through all the scenes of life and how she could have branched off and done something completely different with her life. Like, she's an actress, even though in real life, in her day-to-day life, she's running a laundromat, for example. It's crazy, and I think it truly embraced the choices we make in life and how that has impact on our day-to-day lives.
It's so interesting from like seeing it from your point of view. It's just 2 completely different opinions, but I picked Angela Bassett, who was in Black Panther, and she played the Queen of Wakanda.
Yes.
So she was amazing.
I loved her.
Yeah, so good. Especially the speech she did. It was just so emotional.
Yes.
And yeah, have you watched Wakanda?
I have, yeah, I saw that one in
so
cinemas.
good. And I'm not a Marvel fan. Like that, so I'm not really up to date on what's happening and all that sort of stuff, but I did go and watch this film, and she was honestly such an amazing actress.
Yeah. For supporting role, I've actually picked, again, Everything Ever All at Once.
Oh,
Stephanie
surprise.
Hsu. She was amazing as Jobu Tupaki. Jamie Lee Curtis is also on this list, nominated for Everything Everywhere. I love her, don't get me wrong, but just the way that Stephanie was able to portray this, like, being from another world that was disguising herself as their daughter, and how that family unit comes together, and how she manages to morph her reality, and she's going through so many, like, costume changes, everything. The cinematography for her character as Jobu Tupaki,
yeah, that I agree with,
is insane.
Yeah, 100%. See, now you've explained it like that, because when I first watched it, it was just so jumpy. But now you've sort of explained it as her sort of morphing into someone else and taking her family. I kind of see it like that now. I wish I knew that when I was watching it, because I didn't understand watching it.
Give it another rewatch.
Yeah, I might.
There is a scene.
And then I'll review it next week again. Now I know the background.
There is a scene in it, and it is going to sound the most weird thing if you guys listening haven't seen it, but there is a scene where Jobu and her mum are rocks.
Yeah.
And it is the most...
Is that more towards the end?
Yes, it is the most adorable scene. And it's all silent, apart from, like, the subtitles of them speaking as rocks. Me and my boyfriend were crying at literal rocks with googly eyes.
Now
I
wish I stuck it out to the end, but it was one of them things where I couldn't get into it in the first, like, half hour, and I thought I can't finish the rest of it. But I feel quite guilty now, because it sounds like there's so much behind the scenes, and listening to it from that side, it probably would have made it so much better to watch.
I'll
knowing
have to
that.
rewatch it with you.
Yeah, we'll watch it together and review it next week.
Speaking of all things fantasy, up next we're on to our animated feature film, which was nominated for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is an A24 one, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, The Sea Beast, which is streaming on Netflix, and Turning Red, which is this year's one of the biggest Disney ones. So my pick was Turning Red. I absolutely loved this as a coming-of-age story that was told in such a beautiful way from the 2000s, with the boy bands and everything. It just gave me pure nostalgia of growing up.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm not really one to watch animations. I was nearly going to watch Puss in Boots.
Okay.
Mainly because I've watched previous ones with him in that, animations like that, but I never got around to it. But
no, I do want to see that one. It's got better ratings than
Avatar.
I
noticed that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Some of the ratings it's got are up there. And
I've watched Avatar, so maybe I should watch Puss in Boots, and then I'll see if the rating should be that.
Brilliant.
But definitely, yeah.
It's definitely one I want to see, but I'm like, the cinema's just going to be filled with kids, and I'm going to be there.
That's
like,
what I was thinking, because I really wanted to watch it, and I thought, I don't want to go into a cinema just full of kids.
But we grew up with Shrek, and he originated in
from
Shrek.
Shrek. That's what I was thinking.
Going on next to costume design. So nominated in this was Babylon, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Elvis, Everything Ever All at Once, and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
Oh, I haven't actually heard of that one.
I haven't either.
No.
It's an interesting one.
I picked Black Panther again.
So did I.
Yeah, amazing costumes.
Genuinely.
And I watched a little short documentary on the director speaking about it, and he said one of the main things they wanted was to really respect the culture, sort of just put that into the costumes designs, and you could really see it in the films.
I think the whole legacy of Chadwick Boseman's death as well, and how monumental that was as an impact, with Shuri taking over the role of Black Panther, and how that's going to lead on to the future of Marvel and the futures of the Avengers is insane. She was the perfect person to take over
100%.
that role, and she portrays it in such a light that it's a whole new legacy for Marvel and women being in empowering roles. And I was so happy to see that it was Shuri that took the helm.
Yes, the costumes were just amazing. I did find a quote from Angela Bassett, who played the Queen, and she said, "I know so much more of who I am when I put the costume on."
That's such a beautiful quote.
It was amazing, and she was speaking about other film she's in. She puts on the costume, and it is purely acting, but in this she said she put on the costume and she sort of just felt the character.
Yeah, she is insanely powerful.
It was
and
amazing.
It's just her whole family around her just coming as one with the death, because it's not only a death theoretically, it's a death that impacted the monumental impact of cinema and such a legacy he left behind.
Yeah, honestly, it was so emotional just watching it. You could feel everything they were feeling, and the costumes played a really big part in that.
Oh, 100%. Up next, we're on to film editing. So our nominees are The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Top Gun Maverick.
I will have to admit, I haven't watched any of these, but I was going to watch Top Gun because it looked really good in the trailer, but I can't really review much on this side.
I get you.
Yeah.
I nearly picked Top Gun. I haven't seen the whole thing, but my parents have watched it. And they're massive Tom Cruise fans.
Yeah.
And they absolutely loved it.
That was the reason I was going to watch it. Tom Cruise was in it.
Yeah. But again, I'm going to give this one to Everything Everywhere All at Once because it's insane. How they deal with the multiverse is absolutely brilliant as it unfolds. And there's a whole scene that's literally snapshot seconds of going through this crazy world where the mother and daughter are fighting but also trying to come at one with peace. And there's this one scene that's really interesting that people have screenshotted where you can see all of the editors editing Everything Everywhere on a Zoom call because they did it during COVID.
Yeah.
Well, they did some of it during COVID,
That's
which
insane.
is so funny to see because it's like a tiny nod like of how much work must go into that. It's crazy.
Honestly, it's insane.
Because imagine how much they must have had to film just for that like tiny
That
snapshot. Literally, yeah.
The money as well
The
that must
money,
go
yeah.
into it.
It's absolutely insane. I loved that so much. Next up onto makeup and hairstyling, we've got All Quiet on the Western Front, The Batman, Wakanda Forever, Elvis, and The Whale.
So, what one have you chose for this? Because I've went with the same again, Black Panther.
I went with the same.
Yeah, exact same reasons. Just they appreciate the culture so much. They really respected it as well. It was so respectful the way they portrayed it.
Yeah,
and it just each character suited everything.
It was definitely
it was done
amazing.
Yeah,
yes,
it was done
and
amazingly.
I'm really glad how they staged the roots of
Yes.
what Wakanda is.
Yeah,
even though it's a fictional place, it has these great heritage roots that have been explored and developed through the MCU, and it's absolutely beautiful to see.
I completely agree with that. But you mentioned The Whale. You haven't watched that one yet, have you?
I haven't, no, but I know it's one of Brendan Fraser's big comebacks where he's literally a man who can't leave his house, and the prosthetics on that are crazy.
I've seen some of the trailers.
I can't comment on it too much.
Yeah,
I haven't
literally
seen it,
same.
But it's
But
definitely one to keep an eye out for. And I reckon that could have some good...
I reckon that's another one for me to add to my
feedback,
list to watch again for next week.
And music, we've got All Quiet on the Western Front, Babylon, Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Fabelmans. For this one, you might be surprised, bearing in mind how much I've bigged up Everything Everywhere. But for this one, it goes to Babylon with Justin Hurwitz's score. Songs like Voodoo Mama absolutely bring the volume of the Roaring Twenties to Babylon. It was insane. It's 3 hours long, but having studied film in my background of field, it is an absolute triumph for the world of cinema. It relays how silent films came to be, talkies, and just the way that Margot Robbie dances around on that stage just brings me such joy, and it is such a brilliant score from Hurwitz. And original songs, we've got Applause from Tell It Like a Woman, that's one I haven't heard of, Hold My Hand from Top Gun, Lift Me Up from Black Panther, Natu Natu from RRR, I believe that's one streaming on Netflix.
Yeah,
that's
I
in
did
a
see
different
that
language.
one.
And This Is a Life from Everything Everywhere All at Once by Mitski.
Did you mention Lift Me Up, right?
I did,
Yeah,
yes.
that is definitely the one I'm going to pick again. The exact same from Black Panther, but I cried. I was bawling. I don't even know why.
No.
It's just the song just hit me in my feels, and it just went so well with the entire film.
100% agreed. So that one was by Rihanna, and it was her first ever nomination for an Oscar, actually. So
Really?
yeah, that is a monumental piece for her.
I absolutely loved it.
So for me, again, Everything Everywhere All at Once, but Mitski, I love her music, and it is such a beautiful track that captures the essence of it. Like, even the album art for it's The Floating Bagel, and anyone who's seen the film knows how impactful
Your passion
that
for
is.
this film
Yeah,
is
I
making
love
me
it.
really want to watch it again with like a
Genuinely.
different mindset.
And on to one of the most impactful nominees is Best Picture. So we've got quite a few nominations this year. So we've got All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar,
I wonder which one you picked, Holly.
Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. We all know what I think. It is Everything Ever All at Once. It was my film of the year. Genuinely, I think I've expressed enough on this segment how much
that
I
is the one for
genuinely
Holly.
love it. But if anyone's got Amazon Prime, give it a go.
Watch
Even
it.
if it's not your sort of thing, take on board what I've said
I'm
today
going back and I'm going to try it just for you, Holly. I will rewatch it.
Have you seen any of the Best Picture nominations?
So I picked Avatar. I watched it. I absolutely loved it. It was just incredible. The way it was a very long film.
Yeah.
So you have to have your attention span. But it was just amazing. The imagery was absolutely awesome. It was so realistic, like just despite the fact it was little blue men running around, it was so realistic and it just looked amazing. But you haven't watched Avatar, have you?
I've seen the first one. Obviously, it came out years back
It
now.
did, yeah.
But I know some people who've seen it in 4DX, and they were like, it was like a ride. And I was like, you managed to sit in 4DX for like 3 hours.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I can
to
imagine
hear
like
that.
the water spray on that, though, is insane.
I really want to watch that. That might be another goal of mine. 'Cause
Yeah.
I want to experience 4DX.
I saw Spider-Man No Way Home in 4DX, and the way you were swinging through New York was intense.
Honestly,
It was
I've
brilliant.
never experienced or tried that. I
It's
really
definitely
want
something
to.
to consider.
Yeah.
And up next, we've got production design. So again, some of the nominations are being repeated a lot. We've had some great films this year. Well, last year, actually. All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, Babylon, Elvis, and The Fabelmans. Let me guess. Avatar.
That is like, but to be fair, out of all of them I watched, it was just Avatar
Yeah.
that I looked at. But I honestly, I stick by it.
And for
Avatar.
me, for this one, it's got to be Babylon. From production design was by Florencia Martin, and set decoration was from Anthony Carlino. Just the way it transformed you to the 1920s, you felt like you could be there in that party, and like the whole set design. Some of the locations they filmed in were just absolutely insane. Like, you'd have several films going on at the same time, and it made you think, wow, the film industry, the amount of... It was a film showing the industry, and just the way
That
they
sounds
portrayed
so
that
good.
was so good. Again, it was a long one.
See,
coming in at-
Babylon was something I wanted to watch, and I was going to watch if I had the time. I would be. That is
it's
something.
another long one. It came in at 3 hours.
Yeah, I
20-ish,
noticed
think.
that.
I didn't even realise, but you think it's going to end,
And
you
it
think
just
it's gonna
carries
end,
on.
and it carries on. But the way they actually do conclude it,
But
it's a
sometimes
feat
I
of
quite like
genius.
that because it's quite sad when a film ends.
Yeah.
It just keeps carrying on.
You
You're like,
never
oh,
want
there's
it to
more.
end.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. And the final one that we'll be discussing today, we have skipped over a couple of categories, but genuinely, I can't really comment on documentary or short films.
Yeah,
I
me
haven't
neither.
seen them. I know a couple of them are available on streaming services such as Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, so I'll probably give them a go. But the last one today is writing original screenplay. So again, we've got The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fabelmans, Tar, Triangle of Sadness, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. We all know again what I've picked. What a beautiful, beautiful way to show off the multiverse and to celebrate the absolute legacy that Everything Everywhere All at Once has left on me and the impact of 2022 cinema. Our first song today is This Is the Life by Son Lux, Mitski, David Byrne from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Welcome back to Showtime Central. I'm your host, Holly Wigmore, and I've still got Affinity in the studio with
Hello.
me. So we're on to our next segment now, which I've entitled New on Netflix. So I'll be talking all things streaming services, and up first, we've got You. So the first half of You, Season 4, is out now and available to stream on Netflix. Season 4 will be 10 episodes long, split evenly into Part 1 and Part 2, each with its own release date, leaving viewers very anticipated for what's next. Part 1's 5 episodes long and dropped on the 9th of February, whilst Part 2 is coming out a month later on March 9th, which is actually very soon, keeping viewers very anticipated for what's next. I haven't yet watched Part 1 as I'm waiting to binge all 10 episodes together, as I've loved this series as it's developed, but the first half of the season 4 introduces us to a whole new roster of characters who Joe meets as part of his new life in London, with more likely to join in with the soon-to-be-released Part 2. The show is currently sitting at number 4 on Netflix's top 10 list for TV. Tati Gabrielle, who played Marianne in Season 3, has returned to the You universe as the ongoing subject of Joe's affections, and one unlikely character who might make a comeback is Jenna Ortega's character Ellie, who appeared in Season 2 and is now very acclaimed for her work in Wednesday. on the possibility of returning, Ortega told Teen Vogue that she'd want her character to be an even bigger badass if she came back. Another amazing Netflix series that's dropped recently is Kaleidoscope. Spanning 25 years, Kaleidoscope is an all-new anthology series following a crew of masterful thieves and their attempt to crack a seemingly unbreakable vault for the biggest payday in history. It allows audiences to wonder, how did the crew of thieves plan it all? Who will get away with it, and who can be trusted? There are actually reportedly 40,000 ways to watch this show, with each episode being assigned a certain colour. Both green and violet are flashbacks, so you might choose to watch them first, or you might start with the heist episode itself. It's completely up to us as the viewers, and a great opportunity to mix up an entertaining experience. According to Netflix, the aim of this series is a non-linear approach to storytelling that is to build intrigue and suspense uniquely, with Netflix members each having a different immersive viewing experience. No other show in the history of Netflix streaming has had this capability. Of course, there are existing anthology series such as Black Mirror and Love, Death and Robots, but these are shows of individual storylines, tending not to intertwine, as with Black Mirror and both Love, Death and Robots, you can pick up any episode from any series and just carry on wherever you like. With Kaleidoscope, this takes this viewing experience and heightens it, ensuring you must watch every episode, but in any order to receive a full heist storyline, figuring out how the crew managed to crack the safe. And finally, Lockwood & Co. is another great Netflix series that's recently dropped. Adapted from the novels by Jonathan Stroud, in a world plagued by ghosts, 3 teens band together as paranormal investigators, risking what little they have to unravel a diabolical conspiracy. The show is being called the most underrated show on Netflix by NME, and has been compared to the likes of Doom Patrol and His Dark Materials. This 8-episode supernatural detective show managed to secure the number 2 space on the Netflix top 10, both solidly in both January and the beginning of February, but has since been knocked out as new shows emerge, with BBC's Red Rose currently in the top position. This is the show that everyone I suggested watch, and I watched on BBC 3 when it debuted. But I've noticed a lot of BBC shows are coming to Netflix, which is great. Dracula came recently, Killing Eve's on Disney+, and it's really interesting that BBC shows are starting to emerge on other streaming platforms. But I guess it's for the US viewers, and they get to experience some great shows that we've had. Linking in to episode 1 of Lockwood & Co., up next we've got Sick Child by Suxi and the Banshees, which is from episode 1.
Okay, so I have never watched that film that song was from, but listening to that, it's made me want to watch it.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to review Strictly Ballroom. I absolutely loved it. So we both went, didn't we?
We did.
Holly?
We actually went on the same night. We weren't expecting to, because I somewhat of a blogger with the Theatre Royal. I've just embarked on my blogger scheme, which is very exciting. But I went to press night for Strictly Ballroom, and you happened to be there, and I was like, hello.
This was the first theatre performance I've seen in years. Honestly, it's what just got me straight back into it, and it's made me want to watch so much more. It was amazing. What was your thoughts on it?
I absolutely loved it as well. So if you aren't familiar with the narrative of Strictly Ballroom, this was transformed from Baz Luhrmann's 1992 romantic comedy, with this musical of adaptation in Strictly Ballroom, bringing toe-tapping jukebox classic and combining these with a talented crew of casting creatives that any fan of Strictly Come Dancing would adore. It was directed by household name Craig Revel Horwood, absolutely acclaimed for his Strictly fame, and the glitzy stage production takes all the right steps to live up to Luhrmann's original, with Strictly Ballroom actually being the first film to win multiple awards. I don't think you were aware that it was a Baz Luhrmann film to begin with, were you?
I was not. I honestly didn't know that in the slightest. I was speechless watching it. I absolutely adored it. Maisie Smith was amazing.
She was insane. Because obviously she's done Strictly, so she could dance.
Yeah, but
her dynamic with Kevin.
Yeah,
and they could both belt. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah,
the song, all the songs.
Because I heard mixed reviews on it, because obviously I went for press night and I was reading other people's reviews, and they were like, it wasn't the best. And I was like, are you talking about the vocals? Because they're not classically trained. If you're comparing this to a piece of Broadway or West End or massive productions that you've seen, even if it is in the theatre, yes, it's a touring production. It's got great production value. But the main two people who bring such dynamic to the whole production are not classically trained singers. But the way that they perform and their dynamic on stage was absolutely
amazing.
beautiful.
It was so beautiful. And from a dancer's point of view, I wasn't expecting a lot from Maisie herself, especially from someone who hasn't trained her entire life. It's not her profession. But she was amazing. Like,
she was flawless.
I was watching her and I wouldn't look at her and think you're a beginner or you're new to this.
Like, obviously at first, Fran's like all ditzy and has to be a beginner. That is her character arc.
Yeah.
But the way they come together to do the passo at the end.
Insane.
Wow.
I watched it and thought, you are not a beginner. Like,
no.
I couldn't believe that she wasn't raised dancing. Like, she hasn't
that she'd
trained.
Done it through Strictly.
Yeah, and she fitted in so well with the professionals, and it wasn't out of place. Obviously, her character, she was meant to be out of place. But even that, she still used great technique.
I completely agree. And this
is amazing.
I completely agree. This isn't actually the first project Kevin and Maisie had worked together, with the duo actually being paired together as the winners for 2019's Children Need Strictly Special. And I truly believe that this dynamic that they'd already had as pre-existing performers together, even though they're from such different backgrounds, of obviously Maisie being acclaimed for her work on EastEnders as Tiff, they had such great chemistry as Scott and Fran.
Honestly amazing.
I really think that Kevin's performative nature really stood out on stage, paired with his wealthy knowledge of the ballroom scene, making Scott a character you honestly couldn't take your eyes off, whether performing solo numbers where he was free as a bird, wanting to break the rules and rebel against the Broadway standards, or in large ensemble pieces where they're all in the ballroom dancing as they were with his initial partner. Genuinely, it was so good. I got last-minute tickets. I wasn't even expecting to see this one.
So it's so interesting to hear it from your side, because obviously you're not really well acquainted with
got such a different
technique, but the fact we both enjoyed it, yours production-wise, just everything that's gone into it, and I just appreciated the technique and the dances.
Absolutely.
And the choreography was amazing. And then on top of that, I was watching the stamina, like them belting the music. And then at one point, obviously, the main character, he was just belting his song, and all while doing incredible contemporary dancing.
And that was all in the first act as well.
It was insane. And he was jumping and spinning and singing and belting at the same time.
Yeah, and just the angst that was in that musical number as well, because obviously he has been brought up with these morals that this is ballroom, this is the dance industry, this is what you'll do. And he was like, I don't want to do any of that. I want to rebel. I want to do my own thing. And when he throws his shoes against the wall and just, it is a sheer, utter angst that is portrayed that was portrayed absolutely beautifully on stage by Kevin.
I completely agree. 100%. I was just watching him and I saw, from a dancer's point of view, you have to do specific like breathing techniques as you do specific moves. So if you were to jump up, you breathe in. When you land, you jump out, and it's so specific. And then obviously when you're singing, you've also got breathing techniques, and the way he combined that, and he was dancing and singing, and it shouldn't even be possible. The way he was belting, but then putting everything into his dance, like the stamina and the talent to like try and get them to balance out. It was incredible.
It was honestly comedic as well in points. Like, even going back to that musical number with Kevin, when Maisie walks in and just goes, "You're right." Like, she's just there, like when he's in this beautiful scene and she's just like sort of spying on him.
It's like,
there's so many. Yeah, there were some shocking bits, but genuinely it was funnier than I expected as well. And I think as a collective ensemble, the cast honestly didn't miss a beat with the opening number of Strictly Ballroom, with other point out songs being Heavenly Pineapple and Love Is in the Air and Perhaps. And speaking of Love Is in the Air, we've got the original track from a John Paul Young coming up. But stick around after this, because we have my actor of the week, Finn sort of went into this with her explanation of Megan. We'll have the latest dance industry news bulletin and a little segment on how dancers are treated in the industry from Affinity. Wonderful. Up next, we've got my actor of the week. We did skim over this briefly earlier. I'm getting a little bit mixed up with our
I got a bit
nominees.
excited.
You did. So I'll just be doing mine this week because we've not got long left. We've got about 20 minutes left on our segment today. So my actor of the week is Taika Waititi. He is a New Zealand director and filmmaker who has a unique knack for balancing emotional drama with light-hearted comedy, being the brains behind productions such as What We Do in the Shadows, Jojo Rabbit, Thor Ragnarok, and he's also known in the public eye because of this. He often plays quite a big role in his work, and Waititi is acclaimed for roles such as Korg in the Marvel Universe, Viago the Vampire in What We Do in the Shadows from 2014, and he's also done work on the FX adaptation for television for this, which I absolutely adore. He is Antoine in Free Guy from 2021, Captain Blackbeard/Edward Teach in Our Flag Means Death from 2022, and actually even portrays Adolf Hitler in Jojo Rabbit from 2019. That's such an odd film, but I love it so much because it's a little boy in Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler is his playmate. It is the oddest thing.
That does sound very odd.
Yes, but the brain of Taika is absolutely amazing when it comes to it, and I love that he manages to insert himself in such a way that's like, Taika must have some relation to this, because even in Thor Ragnarok, Korg was introduced, and it's just Taika like being a rock man. It is the funniest thing. And speaking of Thor, even though Waititi had initially expressed reservation on working on a major studio feature, he won over Marvel Studios with a demo reel that was created for the upcoming Thor feature. The reel's tone, a mix of special effects with driven action clips and comedy, won over Marvel Studios, which tapped him into directing Thor Ragnarok in 2017, which is one of my favourite from the MCU. Waititi's most recent project is Our Flag Means Death, which is currently airing on the BBC after a successful debut in the USA on HBO Max, which debuted in March 2022. Episode 8 aired last night on BBC Two, meaning there's 2 episodes yet to come, but if you're a binge watcher like myself, the entire series is available now on iPlayer. Our Flag Means Death is one of my absolute favourite shows from last year.
I haven't watched it.
It's so good. It is set in 1717, but it's actually
I feel like I need to create a list of Holly's favourites.
Holly's favourites
and watch them all and review them back.
I absolutely adore Taika though, and his role as Blackbeard is amazing. So Our Flag Means Death is actually based on a true story of Stede Bonnet, which is set in 1717. He is a wealthy landowner played by Rhys Darby, who is absolutely brilliant and has such an amazing dynamic with Taika. And during his midlife crisis, decides to blow up his cushy life to become a pirate. Things do not go as expected, but with the dynamic cast and crew and people coming in to do supporting roles like Kirsten Skull, it is one of the funniest things I've seen this year, and it's got how topics like the LGBTQ society are presented in it. I'm not going to give anyone any spoilers, but it is beautiful, and the cinematography in
You've made me want to watch.
it is good.
Yeah.
A couple of people have been like, oh, it seems boring, it's about pirates, it's old, it's this, it's that, it's set on a boat. I'm like, but it's funny. It is so raw-hearted comedy from Taika and Rhys, and the way that they have dynamics together, because Rhys comes in as this eccentric, wealthy landowner who's literally in the middle of his midlife crisis and is like, hi all, I'm the gentleman pirate, and he's trying to grow himself against Blackbeard, who's like literally the most infamous pirate of the Red Sea, and he's terrified of him. But as they join forces, it's such a beautiful and heartwarming story
so
of
good.
love and friendship and the crew coming together. And one of my favourite things that's a quote from it is, we talk it through as a crew. And just the whole crew's dynamic in Our Flag Means Death is wonderful. But that's enough about me talking about Taika and how much I love Our Flag Means Death.
I love listening to it though. You're so passionate about it. It honestly makes me want to watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to make you that list. But that's enough about me talking about Taika. Up next, we've got Affinity talking about all of the most recent news in the dance industry. Theatre and everything geeky is my forte, but Affinity, being trained in the dance industry, she's going to take over this segment for us.
There is so much going on in the industry, and it's absolutely insane how it's so overlooked. But here is just a few stories that has came up this week alone. Trills and Ina retained the title of UK Professional Latin Championship dancers. They created an incredible first impression of being up for the challenge to defend their title and that of reigning international championships. The Place, London's leading centre for dance creation, education and performance, is launching a new suite of short CPD courses for professional dance teachers to nurture and build a rich and supportive community of global dancers. Birmingham Royal Ballet has been chosen as one of the UK arts organisations selected to take part in the Digital Accelerator programme. This programme supports leadership, development and infrastructure improvements that is helping cultural organisations to build audiences and increase fundraising and that sort of things. Chloe Elliott went viral on Twitter after she shared a video of herself dancing on point. She received a fatphobic abuse for taking part in a sport that trolls claimed was not for her. They have more on this later with discussion on body shaming within the dance industry. The 4 new Sadler Wells Young Associates for 2023 and 2024 are Tough Boys Dance Collective. They are the 3rd intake of dance makers aged between 18 and 26 who receive support from Sadler Wells. That is all from me on the latest news within the dance industry. So tune in next week to hear more because I just feel like it is so overlooked.
I agree.
It's just all the dance news.
Yeah, I
so
knew
much
nothing
out
about
there.
any of that. And keeping things local regarding to dance, we've got Swan Lake
We do
gracing
have
our
Swan
stage at the
Lake.
Theatre Royal Plymouth very soon. This is one I'm unfortunately missing out on because I'm going to see Heathers.
I'm ready to watch it
very,
though.
very
and I'm ready
excited
to review
about.
it. I'm so
But
excited.
yeah, I think Swan Lake would be a fantastic one for you to see and do a little
Yeah.
segment on like we've done Strictly
Although
Ballroom.
leading into that, unfortunately, especially in the ballet industry, body shaming is a massive thing. And this is one of the topics I really wanted to cover. Obviously, with Chloe Elliott, who went viral on TikTok, she is a dancer and she was trolled by the audience saying it was just not for her because of her body weight. And it's just so unfortunate that this is a common factor
Yeah.
in the dance industry.
It's just trolling online in general as well. Like people get behind their screen and they're like, oh, I'm just going to write this because no one's going to know it. It's anonymous. Like if you were that person receiving that hate, regardless
You
of
just
what it was
wouldn't like
about,
it,
like
would you?
weight, age, demographic, look,
Yeah.
whatever you're getting harassed about, you wouldn't want to be the person receiving that hate. So I don't understand why people do it, but it's such an
insane.
interesting dynamic to look at it from a dance perspective of obviously your background in it.
Yeah, obviously watching theatre performances, especially with you, some of the things, or most of the things that come to the front of my brain when I watch the dancers is I automatically look at their body size, not in a horrible way, but to think this is the reason they were allowed onto West End or allowed onto this sort
And like
of...
with like typecasting as well, you see it a lot and you're like,
There
oh,
is a
to play
specific
this role,
look.
you've got to look like this.
Yes.
You've got to sing like this. And it's not just whether about, I think in a lot of cases, I can't comment because I'm not a performer. I just enjoyed seeing them. But I feel like a lot of the time it's probably like, oh, it's not that you just can't hit that note. It's that you're not got the look we're looking for.
Which is so unfortunate because there are so many talented people out there
100%.
that are overlooked because of society's norms, and it just should not be like that. And I think it's quite interesting because I think as a non-dancer, I suppose, do you look at theatre performances and musicals and look at the dancing? I feel like, do you think about their bodies and like...
No, I look at it from like a critical nature in regards to being a blogger, but in regards to like the choreography, I look at it in a way from a dance perspective. Like when we went to see Hamilton, which we'll be discussing next week, I love the way that the ensemble come together and the way that like the bullet is characterized. But I look at her as an ensemble member. I don't look at the body weights and sizes. I look at the costume. I look at the way it's done. I look at the way they bring the set on. I look at the way they help bring dynamic to a story.
I find that so interesting
yeah.
because I was watching it and the first thing that I think of is body, sizing, weights, looks, because I was professionally trained from the age of 3 but started from the age of 2. And you'd audition every year to stay into my dance company because it was a professional one. And we were always based on weight. So we'd be weighed, we'd be given food, like what foods we were allowed to eat through the week.
And you were that little.
This is coming from someone, I was age 8 when I was first given my diet from my coach.
That's mad.
And I was stuck on this path of just being told what I could and couldn't eat. And I was at such a... But it was just the normal.
Because when you're a kid, you just want to be like, sweet chocolate. Like everything you crave as like a kid that's like